So in section 2.5, we're going to be actually writing equations in slope-intercept form. And you're probably thinking, but Mr. Lewis, haven't we done this already? And yes, maybe no, I don't know, kind of maybe so. Here's the deal. What we've done before is I've given you some information that would help you write it, but now I'm just giving you the line. Maybe a point or two on a graph. So before I would give you the equation, your job was to graph it. Now I'm giving you the graph and your job is to make the equation. All right, so we're going a little bit in reverse. And the way we do that, in today's video, we're going to do by three things. One, we're going to find the slope by using our equation y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Once we know the slope, we need to find the y-intercept on that graph. Now, when we find those two things, it's just a matter of plugging it into our equation, y equals mx plus b. And once we do that, and I don't have this down, it should be going without 7, you are going to C-E, well, wait a minute, C-H-E, can't spell, Mr. Lewis, check it. All right, this is very important. You are going to check it. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So on our first thing here, I'm going to do the simple one with you, like always. I have a line, I have a graph. My job is to find the equation. So the first thing that we need to know is we need to know what the slope is. And that's using the equation y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So let's label a couple of these things. Just because I feel like it, I'm going to call this 1. I'm going to do this x1, y1. This will be my x2, y2. So let's plug things in to find my slope. I'm going to get y sub 2 is 9 minus y sub 1 is 7 over x sub 2 is 1 minus x sub 2 is 0. Work this out. 9 minus 7 gives me 2. 1 minus 0 gives me 1. So my slope on this thing is 2. Easy peasy. Now the next piece I need to find according to my list is the y-intercept. So let's find this right here. So if we look at our graph, it's counting by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8. So this right here would be 7. And actually we know that as a fact because, hey, it actually told me that this point is 7. So my y-intercept is 7. Now that I know my slope, I know my y-intercept, I just plug it into the equation, y equals mx plus b. So y is equal to 2x plus 7. Now that we know that our equation is y equals 2x plus 7, the next piece is to check it. I need to make sure that this equation is correct. And the way I do that is by using these numbers to verify. So according to this, 0, when x is 0, y is 7. So let's plug 0 in the place of x. Well, what's 2 times 0? It's 0, and we can prove that. So I'm going to actually write this out. So 2 times 0 plus 7, and 2 times 0 is 0. Add the 7, I get y is equal to 7. So that point checks out. Now let's try the next one. I'm going to go y is equal to 2 times 1 plus 7. That was my equation, and I've plugged everything in. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 7 gives me that y is equal to 9. So when x is 1, y is 9, and that checks out. So that means that this equation is indeed correct. So what I want you to do for me now is you are actually, whoops, sorry for the background noise, you are actually going to do 2, 3, and 4 for me right now. Now, to kind of give you a little bit of assistance as you're doing this, I want you to be very careful when you are looking at your y-intercept and making sure that you are really paying attention to the scale of the y-axis. Notice how this is counting by 2. So far, all of them. But sometimes you'll get a graph that's not counting by what you think it's counting. So be very careful of what you are counting by. And pause the video, try 2, 3, and 4 on your own, and I'll see you in a moment. All right, so for number 2, you should have gotten that y is equal to 5x minus 3. For number 3, you should have gotten y equals negative x minus 6. And lastly, number 4 is y equals negative 3x plus 4. All right, so now Let's look at the next one, and I'm going to basically show you kind of what to do here again. We have write an equation of the line that passes through the point. So this time I don't even have a graph. So guess what I've got to do? I've got to make a graph. So we're going to have to actually create this. And in order for us to create it, we're actually going to have to create our own little graph. So you're going to need some graph paper for this. And you're going to need, and this is very important, notice how sharp my pencil is. This might sound very silly, but this is very, very important, because what we're about to do is we're going to have to draw this line, and we need to make sure that as we draw it, we're as exact as possible, because it's very easy to make a mistake when we draw our line. So I haven't really talked about that before because we haven't really needed to be perfect, but now we do, because we've got to find where the y-intercept is. And if we don't have a good straight line, it's going to be hard to identify. Now, let's go ahead and do this. So let's look at a couple of numbers here. I notice that I have my x values happen to be a positive number and a negative number. So, and they go up to about 3, and then I have this one up to about 8. So let's make a small graph that counts by 2s. And I'm going to just kind of start some spot right here. We're going to say that my origin point is going to be somewhere around here. And I'm going to draw this out. All right, now that I've gotten my graph created, now I'm just going to simply plot my points. My first one's at 3 and 8. So 3 and 8 would be right about here. There's my first point. And then my next one would be at -2 and 8. So -2 and 8 would be here. And since I know this is a line, I'm simply going to connect the dots, la, 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 la. And I've got it. So the first thing that I need to do is find the slope of the line. Oh man, I wasn't even paying attention. I don't have to do anything on this. If you can recall from the previous sections, when you have a horizontal line, you know automatically that your slope is 0. Well, I didn't even have to do anything. Now, if we want to, we could prove this by plugging in some numbers to the side here, and just for the practice of it, m is equal to, we'll call this point my x1, we'll call this y1, this will be x2, this will be y2. So m is equal to 8 minus 8 over -2 minus 3, m is equal to 0 over -5, so m is equal to 0. That was really easy. Now the next thing I need to know is my y-intercept, and again, this one's a really simple one. It literally crosses right at 8, so that's easy. Now that I know that, it's just a matter of plugging everything into my equation. So y is equal to 0 times x plus 8. Well, 0 times x is nothing, which is 0, so y is equal to 8. That was actually a very simple one. I should have saw that before I even did this problem, but I wasn't paying attention. But that's the main gist of it. So I'm actually going to let you try 6 and 7 on your own, but just like I did in this one, you're going to have to create your own graph. You're going to have to plot your points. You're going to have to find the slope, just like I did here, and you're going to have to find where your line crosses your y-intercept. So why don't you try the next 2 on your own, come back and see how you did. So for these two, you should have gotten that y is equal to -3x plus 15, and for the next one, you should have gotten y is equal to 0. If you're stuck in how I've got the answers for these, make sure that you come and find me. I will help you out. So your challenge problem for today will be, you organize a garage sale. You have $30 at the beginning of the sale. You earn an average of $20 per hour. Write an equation that represents the amount of Y money you have after X hours. So this is a word problem, okay? So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what does it mean when it says $30 at the beginning of the sale? Well, if you're at the beginning of the sale, what's happening here? So I will give you a little bit of an extra hint. It says that you have Y money. So if I were to draw a graph, My y-axis would represent money. This would be my money side. And this would be my time side, in hours to be more specifically. So knowing what the graph should look like, giving you this hint because it helps you right here, you should be able to figure out what it means by this sentence. You have 30 at the beginning of the sale. Also, look at what it says. You earn an average of $20 per hour. That's actually giving you another piece of information that is very useful for you to graph this. All right, so these two sentences give you two pieces of key information you need to know. I'm not giving you any more hints than that, but you know where to find me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.